All right, welcome to the Establish the Run stream. I'm Mike Leone, going to be drafting a drafters team tonight. It's my first one of the season, so you all will be experiencing this with me. I'm going to pull up the drafters site now. And what I'll be doing is playing in the Best Ball Championship, their $20 Drafters $1,000,002 Best Ball Championship, $300,000 grand prize. This format is full PPR. It is unlike a lot of other best ball tournaments. It's cumulative points, weeks 1 to 17, which I like. A little bit of a wrinkle. Definitely makes you think a little bit more about the injured guys early on and some of the bye week stuff. So if you join drafters, make sure you use promo code ETR. I'll pull it up here on the screen, but that's going to give you a deposit match bonus if you've never played there before. Also, they've got a special going on right now. If you draft 5 entries into this, you're going to get 2 tickets for free. If you draft 10 entries, you're going to get 4 tickets. So make sure to check that out. But yeah, without further ado, I'm going to hop in this fast draft. I think I just missed it, of course. I think one just filled, but hopefully a bunch of people will join me. 6 more need to join here. Other cool thing about drafters is you can take the rankings that we have on Establish to Run and upload them here. You literally just have to go to Establish to Run. I'll show you right now. And you go under Best Ball. We have our drafters rankings. And you just literally have to hit this CSV button to download them and then go over here and import that CSV file. So it's pretty sweet. Let's see, where is my team? Okay, we're just waiting for this one to fill. We've got about 5 spots to fill. I've been told the strategy here is a little bit different in terms of running backs and wide receivers, especially after you pass the elite onesies, going really fast, and some of the secondary tight ends and quarterbacks going a little bit later than in other formats. So that's something to be cognizant of. I don't know if that's the market, taking into account the onesies, maybe not quite as important in the cumulative point scoring as opposed to some other formats where you really want that single week elite upside from that position. So maybe that's why they're getting devalued, but that'd be more of an elite onesies thing to me, not a mid-tier. So it's kind of interesting that there's that gap. Somebody asked, do you think we can blindly draft off rankings for this format? I'm never someone that says that you can blindly draft off of rankings, but I think, and like I said, this is my first entry into this tournament, just to be completely transparent. So I'd say probably not blindly, but best ball in particular, I think roster construction is just so important. So that's one of the issues with that. Appreciate Dustin's comment here. Me getting excited over a notification for a draft stream at 8 on a Saturday night is peak virginity. This is virgin time. This is virgin time of year, okay? We're out here grinding, getting the money in good, getting our EV. We know what we're doing. We're fine. Our life EV is good. As Recep says, you still want to do things like betting on a team and correlating. I think that's important because a lot of the correlation upside is just for the season-long correlation upside. And then obviously you're still going to get individual spike weeks. Like that's not unimportant because you still want them. It's just you're thinking of it more from how do you get those spike weeks spread out over 17 weeks versus what do you need to beat like X amount of people in a single week, right? Like we don't need to beat this is what 111,000 entries. We don't need to be 111,000 entries in one single week, right? Like that's spread out over all 17 weeks. But yeah, you don't need bringbacks because obviously there's no single week that's more important than the other week. Week 1 is just as important as week 17. The only bringbacks I could think of is like divisional opponents you play twice, maybe you get 2 chances, maybe you stack a division up, right? And you get teams playing each other and you increase that correlation a little bit, but that might be a little bit too galaxy brain. All right, let's see here. Draft now. Oh, I think the draft has filled. No live contests here. Just give me a second. Active drafts. Where is my draft? Oh, someone said I got to refresh. Okay. Okay. Sorry, everybody. Having a little bit of issues here. Pre-draft. That's what was the issue. We're pre-draft. Thank you. Appreciate that. That was pre-draft. I was boomerang this a little bit, but we're good. So I'm the 1-2 here. I do have the ETR ranks preloaded in this. So I'll be going, Jefferson or Chase. No surprise here. If the people are trying to snipe me, best of luck. Let me see if I can. For the people that have done this before on Drafters, this draft board, will that stay up here? I think it will, which is nice that you can see the draft board and your queue at the same time. Most places you can't really do that. But yeah, my strategy here, I don't think it's going to be crazy different than in other best ball leagues. It just, again, someone like Jackson Smith and Jigba, rookie, I'm already thinking for late season upside. Do I want to layer that into my, portfolio? Yes, but I'm going to be a little bit more price conscious than I'll be elsewhere because he's going to miss time with injury, might take some time to break out, and all the weeks are important. Appreciate the help, Phil B. and everybody else. To start. So here we go. Jefferson goes 1. I'm going to take Jamar Chase. Easy game. I like being on the turn here. I think it's a little bit easier to do a solo live draft stream on the turn where I can just make 2 picks in a row and then kind of chat through any questions or anything. Why Chase over Cup? Cup, obviously, full PPR format has insane upside given his target share, but I'm just at the point where I'm taking a macro view of those 2 players and peak health, peak of his career for Jamar Chase, playing with Joe Burrow on a team that I really like to play calling tendencies for with Cincinnati. And there's less systemic risk. If something happens to Stafford, that O-line can be a problem for the Rams. That's a team that, has depth issues. That season could go south like it did last year. Obviously, it ran super bad last year, but I think when you're talking about 2 elite players with elite ceilings, I'm just going to take that profile of Chase as, I'm just not going to pass on that talent age combination, especially with a little bit more insulation from the offense around him. Okay, now we get why not Ty Freak over Chase? So shout out to the days when Levitan used to refer to Tyreek Hill as Ty Fluke. I was kind of with him. That aged very poorly, but again, I just think Jamar Chase, when you look at age, talent, quarterback system, I just think it's kind of fancy to go someone else over him. Like if you're doing a big portfolio, you want to spread it out. I get that. But for me, it's honestly like a pretty easy click at 2. Yeah, they're all studs, right? Like as ETR Fanboy says, they're all studs. So we're just trying to, mitigate some of the systemic risk. Like why take on the macro risk of the other guys when Chase is completely free of that? Is Jameson Williams draftable here? Is it full fade with the full season scoring? I think Jameson goes too early, even in other formats that are more dependent on the playoff weeks late in the season. So I don't think I'd say he's a full fade, but it just seems really unlikely to me that someone wouldn't draft him before I'm willing to, because that's already happening in other formats. And if people aren't making the proper adjustment here, which a lot of times is the case. Preferred running back option back end around 1. Obviously Bijan, I think, but after the Bijan Eckler tier, I think ETR has really grown to love Tony Pollard. Really on Tony Pollard. I think Chubb and Barkley are very close, but Pollard is the upside guy that we really want. Man, so do you value double stacking Chase and Higgins with Burrow over getting a top running back? Usually with like the playoff tournament formats, I like stacking Burrow with Chase and Higgins, where you can kind of maybe ping pong. Here, I'm up next, so I just want to. Okay, full people. All right, I am going to go, I believe, just go elite tight end here. do Mark Andrews. So I'm a little bit less likely in the drafters format to do something like Tyreek Hill and Waddle together and Chase and Higgins together, because I think you really need to hit like high end seasons for both players, and it's hard for them to hit the super high end together. Like they're positively correlated overall, but that's at more like a 70th percentile outcome. At weeks with like playoff formats and whatnot, man, I'm torn here. Drew kind of told me the quarterbacks last a little bit. I think I'm gonna take Josh Jacobs, who I think's just been undervalued at this 2-3 turn, because of the whole lot risks which aren't there. But yeah, so going back to what I was saying, like doubling up on elite teammates, it's harder to both them hit like that 90th percentile plus ceiling. When you're in a format where like 2 out of 12 advance, like you don't need that to happen to advance. And then when you get to the playoff weeks, you don't have to use both their scores in a single week. So like there's some interesting unique elements. You just get the right one. So I kind of like it in that format. But in this one, you know, my tiebreaker is to actually split up the elite teammates, because I want like these smash seasons out of my first 3 round picks. And it's gonna be tough to get Chase and Higgins to like just both completely smash. Yeah, burn 3. He gets the Devonta Smith Hurts stack, which is really nice. Sets that up. All right, sort by ADP. Oh boy. How do I go back to sorting on rankings? Okay, I got to refresh the draft room because I think I switched my sorting up. There we go. Yeah, so if you sort on ADP, I think it's hard. You got to refresh to get back to sorting on your rankings. You know what's funny? People remember me in this comment that I was totally on Jacobs last year. Remember the jogging drift? Honestly, I was really afraid to draft Jacobs. I didn't have a lot of him. It was just, I'm the type of person that's not, you know, for the most part, I'm price conscious. And, you know, at a certain point, I don't want to quadruple count the risks on a player. And that's kind of what happened with Jacobs. Like we were very conservative with his base workload last year. We were conservative with ceiling. At a certain point, he still popped as a value. And at that point, like I'm going to draft the player. I'm going to trust our process that we have at ETR. So that's kind of what happened with Jacobs. So I wouldn't say I was all over him, but on that stream, because it was a real wide receiver heavy room and I was drafting with other wide receiver heavy drafters who don't like the archetype of Jacobs, it definitely seemed like I was crazy pro Jacobs, but it was more like I'm willing to take those types of values if the cost is correct. Okay. Okay, I can click the reset at the top of the table. So again, working on this, but as you can see, you get fish like me in these draft rooms. So make sure to check it out on Drafters. Again, use promo code ETR. Good deposit bonus. This contest is only like half fill right now, so like there's possibility to overlays. They've got promos with tickets. It seems like a fun contest to join, especially if you've maxed some of the other contests out there. Seems pretty plus EV, and I do like to switch it up with the cumulative weeks 1 to 17 thing. I think it's a little bit more skillful. Takes out some of the randomness of like those lottery playoff weeks. Okay, so I think I would have taken Breece Hall if he had fallen there, but I think he's gonna be okay to start the season. So even in the cumulative weeks format, I think Hall is the type of running back bet where it's like you're okay to start the season. Ceiling, I don't get him. I'm trying to mix sort of like ADP with ranks here. That's how I always draft. So you guys kind of get insight like how I do that on the fly. But yeah, right here, I'm going to go Christian Kirk, who seems like a good blend of both. I'm a huge Christian Kirk fan. On my Bold Takes podcast, I said he would outscore Calvin Ridley. You know, that's less than 50-50, of course, but I think it's closer to 60-40 than people realize. I think the market has that price more like 75-25 in Ridley's favor. Overlay means sorry, let me see, this is where I do run into do you take the falling value on Najee Harris, or do I take my guy in Kenneth Walker at running back? I'm gonna go Kenneth Walker here. Our ranks have Walker ahead of Najee. Generally, when I'm doing a full portfolio, I will kind of like take the Najee Harris value and build that in. But I want to draft this team as like if it's my one and only team to kind of give a little bit better insight. Sorry, back to the question on overlay though. Overlay is when the amount of entries doesn't fill past where there's rake. So it's essentially a rake-free contest. So this is 111,000 people. They need to fill the contest, X amount of spots to completely cover the prize money. They fill, let's say 100,000 spots out of 111,000. That might be the break-even point. If they fill it to full 111,000 people, essentially you're paying rake. Like the amount of entry fees everyone pays is less than the prizes paid out. But below a certain threshold, the amount of prizes paid out is actually greater than the entry fees people are playing, in which case you're kind of plus EV at randomness at that point. Yeah, this was the simpler way to put it, was just less teams to compete with, same prizes. Okay. Yes, as Kausa says, we got Gale Sayers. We were joking last year a lot that Kenneth Walker was Gale Sayers, but even with Jack Charbonnet there, I legitimately just think there's not too many players with the elite rushing upside that Kenneth Walker has. And you're starting to feel better about this offense. I was most lukewarm at ETR about the Seattle offense, but they bring in Jackson Smith and Jigba, even with him missing the beginning of the year. It seems like they're devoting things to offense. And I think the hope is that Charbonnet takes like all the RB2 and 3 touches together from last year are just combined into Charbonnet. And then Walker is still somewhat similar to what he was last year. And there's upside beyond what he did last year. His success rate was pretty poor. Hoping that year 2, he has a little bit better success rate, still has that, explosiveness and big play upside. So I'm pretty into him. And then him versus Najee too. It's starting to get scarier and scarier on Najee with him and Jalen Warren maybe splitting more to start. Like if they're splitting to start, that's, Najee's dead. That's really bad. Because we're already kind of expecting that transition to take place over the course of the season. So you really need Najee to start as the clear one. Okay. Jason wants a Madison take. I'm not as high on Madison as Silva. I think that's clear. But I think when he starts getting into round 6, if you don't have a running back, he's completely fine. I think the market has priced in a lot of the risk with Madison. And at certain points when he's falling to round 6 and whatnot, they're not considering some of the uncertainty and the upside that comes along with that. So I'm somewhat indifferent on Madison. I'm probably a little bit higher on him than the market, but a lot of times if I already have backs there, I'm going the way of the wide receiver. This is a little bit of a running back heavier room, I feel like. Ooh, Lawrence goes, so I won't be able to get that stack. Probably given that. I do think I'll do like a hyper fragile running back build, but these running backs here, it's really difficult for me to take over the wide receivers on the board. I'm going to go with ADP here and take Marquise Brown, who's also our top ranked wide receiver. Hollywood is someone we think is really talented. Is going to earn a huge target share. Addison's my boy coming back. I was hoping to get him coming back. But yeah, I think the systemic risks for the Arizona offense sucking are like baked in with Marquise Brown. So this is, it's a tough spot for me. I kind of regretting the Andrews thing because we've got so many. I see what Drew says about the tight ends lasting a little bit. I'm like somewhat tempted to go with tight end, but I don't want to fall behind on wide receiver too much. I think I'm going to just continue to bet on the Baltimore Ravens offense. I don't have Lamar for the stack, but I think the Ravens offense is going to explode this year. I think it's going to operate way differently than it has in the past. And the market's counting for that a little bit, but I think there's still a lot of upside beyond it. So also kind of like layering in again, even with it being weeks 1 to 17 weighted equally, I know I'm going to have my early weeks covered with Chase, Kirk, Marquise Brown, kind of the projectable volume guys out of the gate. So you can still layer in guys who might not contribute as much early in the season, like a rookie wide receiver, in hopes that you get that second half breakout. Is there around 4 to 6 wide receiver that you see having a great case to jump into the top 2 rounds next year? I mean, it's the easy, boring, chalk answer, but like any of the rookie wide receivers, we saw Dotson going round 6, Jordan Addison going round 6 here. Generally, the guys that are leaping huge are going to be, youth oriented guys. There's some players like Gabe Davis who I think could make a couple round jump, but to get into the top 2 rounds, I think you need to be a youth player where we just haven't seen that hit quite yet. Of course, the issue there is like those players have less projectable volume. There's more risk associated with them. I'm a little bit jealous of these teams that are getting round 7, Goddard, Kittle, Pitts. But, we locked ourselves in with Mark Andrews in round 2. How much better do you think Andrews is than Pitts, given they are separated by so many rounds? I'm not sure if you're asking like talent-wise or fantasy-wise, but fantasy-wise is just not close because of what we've seen from Mark Andrews from an efficiency and volume standpoint, like 2 to 3 years going now, and a route percentage standpoint. I know Pat Crane of Legendary Upside has talked about the amount of routes that Mark Andrews runs, and it just, there's no tight ends that really compete with him in terms of route share. And he's got more competition for targets this year, but there's going to be a lot more targets available in that Baltimore offense than has ever been the case before. All right. It's going to be a tough team for me to stack up because, Kyler is a pretty bad pick in this format with Marquise Brown. And then obviously I can't stack any of my other pass catchers because those quarterbacks are already taken. So it is a situation where the quarterback I'm taking, I'm a little bit cognizant of the ability to backdoor stack them to some extent. Oh boy, the wide receivers kind of drying up fast here. All right, let's see. I think I'm going to grab Michael Thomas here as sort of like the last wide receiver in this tier. I do like Juju, but some chances I can get him later. Goes Richardson at quarterback. Jay Curl. Oh, Pacheco. Pacheco is who I was going to go with next, but I am like okay with Antonio Gibson. I know Silva here would be pounding the drum for Dalvin Cook. I'm a little bit torn here on capitulating to Silva, but I'm just so in on Breece Hall. I'm going to go Antonio Gibson, who has a nice, I think the floor ceiling combination there is a little bit better than it seems. I do like these guys in round 9 where I can make the case for contingent value upside, but there's going to be standalone value. And yeah, in this format, I wanted to get at least one more of those running backs before I start digging into more contingent value based backs. But I'm going to have to figure out quarterback for sure. Yeah, I was going to say the guy out of the 1 spot, Jay Curl, 88 with the elite rushing quarterback upside, Richardson and Fields, which is interesting in this format too. You don't need the correlation as much, though he does get the Pittman-Richardson stack. Is it dumb to go double elite wide receiver when A.J. Brown, Lamb, Garrett, Devontae on the board versus pairing one with... I mean, if I'm going to assume you're talking drafters, I don't think it's dumb to go double elite wide receiver. I think there's some legitimate running back ceiling available later in drafts than we've ever seen before. Like in the running back dead zone, there's a few picks that I think are great picks. The biggest issue, I guess, with that in this draft in particular, some of the best values weren't really there at 5'6". Like Javonte Pierce, I think is fine, 5'6". Like if you're going double wide receiver, or Madison with one of those guys. But I'm fine going double wide receiver or one wide receiver with Pollard and Saquon. I'm not going to, I can't tell the future. I think either of those pairings is fine out of the back end of the first round. So I think stacking is less important. No, I think stacking is still pretty important because you want the weekly upside that comes with stacking plus the season-long correlation. So I'm going to try and figure out my correlations, even though I haven't yet. But I think it's still pretty important. The opponent bringbacks are not important, anymore. We're not looking at schedule stuff like that. We're not as concerned about weeks 15 to 17 in particular. Yeah, someone says they, I like this build, good shit. I like a few different T builds. Waiting for likely and late T's is nice. Also, I think with the way this draft's shaking up, I'm probably making a really big bet on a huge Andrews season. Now you can use tight end and flex, so I'm not ruling out going to a second tight end if I see a lot of value. But right now, I'm kind of just playing this as Andrews is awesome. I can cover most of my tight end weeks and really try to gobble up running back and wide receiver. I have a pretty balanced build thus far. Again, quarterback, I'm going to have to figure out. The quarterbacks are going earlier than I expected them to go, for sure. Somewhat wish I went with, Dimes or Anthony Richardson at the 8-9 turn with the way this is shaking out, because I don't have a great, setup at quarterback. Can't really do Cousins backdoor stack. So this is a tough one. So I think I'm going to set up a little bit of a Aaron Rodgers stack just to make sure I get some correlation. Would be surprised if J. Curl took Rodgers with having two first 8-round quarterbacks already, which is why I took Lazard first. Going to come back with quarterback in Rodgers. Definitely have Cousins valued better than Rodgers, but with no Viking on there and it being tough to late stack Vikings, I just went with the correlation play there, which maybe is a mistake. That's where it gets a little bit difficult to figure out. What are your thoughts on JT? Just took him at 311, 402 last two drafts. I think right now I would just buy into the uncertainty. The talent is so huge for JT. If he wound up in Miami for some reason, he's probably a first round pick. So I think I'm buying into that. The tough part for me is for the Colts, I thought he was overvalued quite a bit, even at the 1-2 turn, just the way I think this offense is going to operate this year. I don't know if there's going to be many high value touches for the running backs. I don't know if the offense is going to be good, which turns JT, even though he's super talented, into a solely an efficiency bet. And I didn't really want to make that. So, early, 2-3 turn, if he's back with the Colts, which, we're hearing reports that's not salvageable, but assuming it is, I don't know if you've really gotten a ton of value. But at 3-4, I just, you're really shooting for the moon in these contests. That's a risk I'm willing to take. Thoughts on Keenan Allen this year? I like Keenan quite a bit, mostly because I like the Chargers offense a ton. From an age standpoint, don't love Keenan. He's not a super explosive player, but ultimately there's going to be a ton of fantasy points available in that Chargers offense. They're going to throw a ton. They're going to run at a really fast pace, so they're going to run a lot of plays. And we have them running almost 2 more plays per game than any other offense. Keenan's constantly been, a target hog or close to one. So he just stays healthy. It's a big if, but if he just stays healthy in a full PPR format, it's going to be pretty hard for him to disappoint. All right. Doing my best here to answer these questions and build at the same time. I've got week 17 correlations in my mind that don't matter. I got to take those out. I'm absolutely doing a 3 quarterback build at least, with the 20 rounds here, and with my first quarterback being a bit shaky in Rodgers. That did not break well for me. I would do that differently if I could do it over again, for sure. Yeah, the way I'm looking at this room right now, if McKinnon comes back to me, I think he's a clear take for me. I can go a little bit like a hyper fragile build at running back. Less worry about contingent value breakouts. Just getting guys that are legitimately going to be on the field from day one. He goes. I'm not surprised he went. That's who I would have taken. Looking at the quarterback stacks and what might be available late. I don't have to stack everybody, but I got Sam Howell there where you could take a gamble on Cole Turner as the tight end for Washington. Curtis Samuel's a good late round pick. I do have Derek Carr, who we're low on, but I do have Michael Thomas, so I might just make that natural stack there and not have to reach. And then also Jordan Love, we don't love too much, but Jaden Reed is one of our favorite wide receiver values. And then the Carolina stuff's easy to backdoor stack. So I think I'll be able to figure this out probably, and Howell's got some rushing upside too. I might take a gamble that Howell lasts a little bit longer. Yeah, someone mentioned the backdoor Carolina stack, Young Mingo Hurst. Very easy to do that. As Jack Fletcher points out, could have went Addison over Brown and taken Kirk over Aaron. In hindsight, I would have liked to do that. I kind of was hoping I would get Brown and Addison, leaned into the ADP when I made that gamble. It did not work out for me. Okay, A-Chain goes. We did have a run on running back to the point where I don't think I'm that comfortable taking too many. If I could just take a huge ADP value in Jamal Williams, I think I might do that. Just take the huge ADP value in Jamal Williams. Sometimes I'll take a big ADP value if I'm stuck at a position. I'm going to do that and bet on this Saints offense. Again, I don't think the guy in one should be taking a quarterback here. So I can take Carr. There's also, did Mims go? Yeah, Marvin Mims went. So there's not enough of a gap between Russ and Carr for me to go Russ over Carr. So, this is at Carr's ADP more or less. I'm just going to take the stack and not get myself into too much QB trouble. Leone, can you share Cody Main's lineup for tomorrow's preseason game? I would love to see it. Cody's on absolute fire. If you want peak virginity, it might not be me here in the drafter streets. It might be Cody grinding preseason and Alex and all the guys that are helping us there. They do such an insanely good job, and it's like an old school DFS sport where you actually have this information work hard edge. It's harder to get that now, especially in NFL DFS. I think we do some great stuff to give people edges, but it's a different type of edge. I think we quantify things better in NFL DFS than the market does. But for preseason NFL, I mean, you can just grind, be ahead on the news, and it's a lot of fun because you feel pretty confident you're getting your money in good. With the 20 rounds, this might be insane, but with my lack of quarterback upside, depending on how late Kyler lasts, this could be a 4 quarterback team, but I'm gonna wait quite a bit on that. But I could see it happening for me. Yeah, I definitely pushed QB a little bit too far though. It's tough because Gibson I felt like was a tier drop off at running back, so I was I could have pushed Michael Thomas, I suppose, at the 8-9 turn and gone quarterback and just filled out wide receiver with quantity instead of quality from there, especially with already having 4. But yeah, these stream drafts too are generally a little bit sharper rooms because the ETR subs see me in here and they join. I just missed the one that had filled, right before I went live. So some of this filling out is definitely some sharper people. Berg says, I'm building a Rodgers Murray team in another room, may go 4 QB for the first time. Yeah, I think with elite tight end and not drafting a quarterback till round 11 and having quarterbacks don't have a ton of upside, I may consider the 4 quarterback route when I generally would not do that. We also got Hardman as a stat candidate. Shahid as a stat. So we got some stat candidates late too, depending on what we do with this. I'll go, man, Stafford's still sticking around. Pretty good value, but I don't really have any. I don't think I want to stack him with like Puka or Tutu late. It's not really my scene. I am looking at this running back tier, and for me, after Roschon Johnson, Jerome Ford, Chuba Hubbard, I don't love the upside. So I think I'm going to get one of those. I'm just kind of debating what I want to do at wide receiver. Chark with the injury again is a little bit tougher for this format. I do have to admit, like our rankings aren't adjusting perfectly for the format. That's just tough. I'm going to go with Roschon. Good ADP value. I think there's a chance Deonta Foreman gets cut or that Roschon's ahead of him. And, sometimes with rookie running backs, they won't be there right away, but I think they'll eventually get there. So he's a gamble. I took the boring bet with Jamal Williams. I kind of want a balanced room, even with weeks 1 through 17, all counting. the same and putting more emphasis on projectable volume early, you can have a balanced room where you have the guys you know are going to play early, like Jamal Williams, and then you have the guys you hope take over for your roster later in the year, like a rookie like Roshan Judge. Man, Shaheed goes. Ooh, I was not thinking Shaheed would go. Yeah, it's a little bit of a tougher spot. I'm going to, just the way this room is, I'm going to take Kyler Murray a little bit early here and ensure that Arizona stack. Just looking at the ADPs of some of the players, I should have gone Juwan Johnson. That's what I should have done. I should have done the double stack. Just taking my tight end, even though we have other tight ends ranked ahead of him. That's what I should have done. It's hard doing this on the fly and streaming. Should have taken Juwan Johnson, but we'll take Kyler. And I know there's some easy backdoor stacking with Arizona too. And then I can maybe get a fourth QB depending on how things break. I got twitchy on you. Someone said don't get twitchy on QB. I got twitchy on QB, Chris. I couldn't help myself. I got twitchy. I was also felt no man's land where some of the stat candidates and best wide receivers like McCole Hardman, for example, they weren't they should last by ADP. Now in this room, you never know what room you're in and if they will actually last, but that was part of my gamble. Yeah, Juwan Johnson goes. I'm kicking myself a little bit for not taking Juwan. That was I think gambling the other way made more sense. But we made our bet. We're gonna figure it out. Rodgers has some sneaky, really good backdoor stat candidates, especially with Corey Davis retiring, where you feel a bit better about Tyler Conklin at tight end. I don't know if his status changes, but he's been there all off season as like a legitimate starting tight end you can take late. And then McCole Hardman, you just feel better about him finding his way on the field, even though I think Randall Cobb's going to play an annoying amount of time. You've got bigger play upside from Hardman. As Berg notes, Howell going higher and higher. Yeah, the Sam Howell hype is real. We were a little slow on it just because we weren't 100% sure that the starting job was as safe for him as it's turning out to be. I know Mark Dankenbrink for us was really on Howell from the beginning, so shout out to Mark. He's had a ton of him all off season. I got him in specific builds, but not as much as I wish. And yeah, he continues to climb. I think you're seeing the combination, the uncertainty with the new offensive coordinator. Howell, maybe he's good. He was at one point in time a top QB prospect, thinking that people would take him top 5 in the draft, and then had a tough year when he lost a lot of NFL talent. He runs. I can see the upside argument for sure. Godwin, Evans thoughts. They were so cheap to begin the offseason. Was amazing. Right now, super boring take, but I think they're priced appropriately. Like those guys are like 6th, 7th rounders, right? I prefer Godwin, especially with the downgrade in quarterback play. The slot guy, shorter ADOT guy who could just see a bunch of, low value real life targets, but high value PPR targets is the one I prefer. Really getting sniped on the stacks though with Hardman going. Tough scene. Did not go down the way that I hoped for sure. This will probably end up, even with Andrews, a 3 tight end build for me, but 2 of them are going to be super late, and part of that's going to be because of stacking, I think. Yeah, Michael Wilson goes, wow, the snipers are out. That is absolutely tough scene for me. I'm going to take Conklin, get this Jets double stack locked in. Did not see the double snap. Did not see this. I did not think both Hardman and Michael Wilson would be gone there. Got some running back values I do like later today. That I'm going to wait on. Josh Downs goes, I think that's a pretty good pick. I'm going to take super boring, but I think Hunter Renfrow is undervalued in these full PPR formats, especially these best ball formats where there's some uncertainty with it. Is he going to stay the whole season with the Raiders or not? But for him being the slot guy, the way he earns targets, in a full PPR format, I mean, it's just tough for him to not see double-digit target share. And a guy with a double-digit target share and a high catch rate in round 17 is going to be valuable in these formats. But don't like drafting next to Byrne, who takes Josh Kelly, Kieran Williams go. So some of the running backs I was hoping to get late are already going. This room's making it tough on me. I don't feel great about my team. But we persist. Now, as far as stacking goes, I won't go overboard. We do have on this team, if I scroll down a little bit here, I've got a Rodgers double stack already. I've got Derek Carr with Michael Thomas. Also have Jamal Williams in the mix. Not like direct correlation there, but just betting on the Saints offense. And then Kyler with the single stack to Marquise Brown. Hopefully he comes back sooner rather than later. I initially said I might do 4 quarterbacks, but looking at what's out there at quarterback, probably I'm not going to do that. I think I'm probably sticking with 3 quarterbacks. The guy that I do like most, if he sticks around, would be Desmond Ridder, who I think has some sneaky efficiency upside this season with Atlanta, even though like it's not going to be a huge passing volume. I do for stacking options, I still have Trey McBride here for Arizona. If I want to go that direction, I would be done at tight end, but they can count and flex too. Running back room with Jacobs, Walker, Gibbs, and Jamal Williams, Roshan Johnson. It's kind of a hyper fragile build, but I think with the 20-round draft, I'm going to need one more running back in that mix. The boring guy is CH, but we've got Chris Evans coming up our board a bit too. Could possibly backdoor stack Cordarrelle Patterson with Desmond Ridder. We'll see how that goes. Did y'all bump Kyler down based on those random Twitter rumors he might not play this year? We had him a little bit high at the very beginning of the offseason. We actually bumped him up a little bit, but he's been a really draft-dependent guy for me. I've taken him ahead of our ranks in certain builds where I just feel like I'm devoid of QB upside, and I'm just like, give me any semblance of QB upside. And there's other drafts where, if I've got an elite quarterback early, or if I got 2 mid-high upside guys, I'm just almost completely ignoring him just because it doesn't make sense for my team. I do like CPAT a little bit more than the market. We've done a good job staggering our running back bye weeks. Probably taking one of Chris Evans and Patterson. I think we're going to dock Leonard Fournette in our rankings a little bit as he continues to not sign. # Will Fuller risk right there. Scott says, take another QB and open up even more stacks. If I get CPAT here, I might go a little CPAT Desmond Ridder with the Mac Hollins. Mac Hollins is probably sticking around there. I might do that. Ridder goes. Classic. Burns watching me stream, not even giving me a chance here. Unbelievable. Okay, so I'm gonna go Chris Evans here, who I think could be the passing down back out of the gate for the Bengals. In which case, I'm not only getting contingent upside, I'm actually getting some usable points right off the bat. Someone says don't mention Will Fuller too soon. Yeah, those best ball shares from a year ago absolutely hurt. And take Trey McBride, get this double stack for Arizona. Again, I'm really betting on Andrews being awesome, but with the fact that I didn't take my second tight end until round 16 and it's a 20-round draft, I'm okay going 3 tight ends with Andrews. If I didn't get the correlation there, I might have just stuck with 2, but both my backup tight ends are going to be correlated with my quarterbacks. I'm definitely not doing the 4 quarterback thing now. That ship I think has sailed. Yeah. Someone said I don't mind Mac as a QB3. I don't either. It's just sometimes I get in these rooms where it's like, I don't know if I want 3 Mac Jones types, if that makes sense. When I've got Aaron Rodgers and Carr, which are stable-ish quarterbacks but don't have a ton of upside, I don't need a late stable-ish quarterback that doesn't have a ton of upside in Mac Jones. I want Kyler or Ridder or Howell in those builds. If I've got some risky quarterbacks to start, maybe if I have Anthony Richardson a little bit later, I might feel like a little bit safer in Mac Jones. And you can stack him. I mean, Juju goes in the double digits as like the first pass catcher off the board. You've got Hunter Henry, who we've had a strong value as all year. Devontae Parker doesn't go a lot. So, yeah, I think I like Mac as a backdoor guy, but it's pretty dependent on what the rest of my QB room looks like. And this room that I had in particular, it was I felt it was better to go with Kyler, even though I definitely got a little twitchy and took him a tad early. Is starting off Pollard and Lamb viable on drafters, or does it fall in line with Higgins Chase dilemma? It's somewhere in between. I don't think it's the extent of the Higgins Chase dilemma, but I also don't think it's like maybe the cleanest. But those guys could be, you can bet on the Dallas offense being great this year and it being heavily concentrated on those two players, and they do things in slightly different ways where I think that's a bit more tolerable than Higgins Chase. And I wouldn't like totally write off Higgins Chase. I just would want to be price conscious on it. And realistically, it's hard to be price conscious on it because you're drafting Chase at the beginning of round 1, which means your only chance at Higgins is the 2-3 turn. And there's a lot of other really good players there. So maybe I'm overthinking it, but I don't love that cost there. Kevin asked if I can share my favorite team I've drafted so far this year. I will probably tweet that out in the next week or so. I can't think of one off the top of my head. Or else I would definitely share it, but I'll probably take a look at some of these teams. Probably a team I drafted real early that has just crazy ADP value. WW says Pollard a bust at ADP should be round 3. No, we love Pollard. Pat Crane was on my Establish the Edge podcast recently talking legendary running back upside. Pat's pretty strict with what he wants out of running backs and has Pollard as a target. Levitan thinks he maybe should be going ahead of Bijan. I'm not there, but we're pretty pro Pollard here. All right. I might do the super gross Randall Cobb to go with Rodgers, just like he's going to play more than people realize. That's what we're going to do to close this out. So here's my team. My first draft of the year was honestly, it was tough. I go with 3 quarterbacks and I got them all stacked, but I had to reach on the quarterbacks themselves to do it. Quarterbacks went a little earlier than I expected. The tight end room I like a lot. I think I got good value. I love the Andrews elite upside and then just taking 2 cheap correlated tight ends after him. The running back room, I think hyper fragile is a really good way to play this drafters tournament. So I'm less into 0 RB, more into hyper fragile, where because week 1 counts the same as week 17, that projectable volume out of the gate matters a bit more. And you're just really banking on health. If your first couple running backs are healthy, you could smash, and then you want to hit a ton of quantity at wide receiver to make up for things. I split the difference a little bit. It's not a true hyper fragile build with Jacobs being round 3, Walker round 5, and then not getting Gibson till 10. So I kind of mixed and matched. So I only have 8 receivers. If I went true hyper fragile, it'd be more like 5 running backs, 9 or 10 wide receivers. Yeah, the wide receiver room, go Chase, Kirk, Brown, Zay, Michael Thomas, Lazard, Renfrow, Cobb. Pretty boring room, honestly, except for Zay and Chase. But I think it's a good mix. And I think in best ball, it's sort of the opposite of what people think, where some of these more boring wide receivers are actually more valuable in best ball, especially a format like drafters, than in managed. Whereas in managed, after a certain point, all I care about is ceiling, because I can get some guys off wire if, a Zay Flowers or Quentin Johnson doesn't work out. It doesn't really hurt me too much in managed. And if I take a guy like Lazard and manage, like, what am I really winning? Like, not that much, but in best ball, it makes a lot more sense. So I hope that you all enjoyed this stream, enjoyed watching me sweat and navigate this tricky draft. But it's definitely a fun contest on drafters. As I said, that was my first one. I enjoyed doing it. I'm going to fire off a few more for sure. And if you want to fire off some, again, make sure you use promo code ETR when you sign up. I've got the link up right now, drafters.com/refer/ETR. If you want the direct URL, that'll get you a deposit bonus. And they've got some promotions right now that if you buy 5 teams into this $20 championship, you get 2 tickets for free. If you buy 10, you get 4 tickets for free. Don't quote me, I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure they've got some good offerings. So it's a really good time to get in this contest, only half full right now. I appreciate all the support from chat. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning into this. And yeah, catch you all next time.